Wait till you guys see what I've just found in here.
Okay, buddy, what's on the menu today?
We've been invited back to Universal Studios to investigate another mystery.
Really?
We all know the famous Universal Studios Courthouse Square and its iconic clock tower set from Back to the Future, which you can visit on their world-famous studio tour.
Courthouse Square, right?
But in 2004, it drastically changed appearance, modernized to be less recognizable for filming of The Ghost Whisperer.
Typical, huh?
Something that future fans have therefore ever since wondered is whether the clock tower's iconic 1985 stone pillars, clock, and more are still lurking behind a newer facade, or if they were destroyed and replaced. Did Universal save the clock tower?
Interesting.
And we're solving this mystery as part of their studio tour's 60th anniversary celebrations going on right now. Along with some delicious retro recipes and other amazing movie magic sites, one thing they definitely did save is the screen-used DeLorean, which guests can visit all summer at Universal Plaza on the theme park's upper lot.
That is gorgeous.
Granted, it's not a Pontiac Trans Am, but hey, nobody's perfect.
Well, it could fly, Kit.
What do you mean? I could fly too.
Good point.
Speaking of iconic props, the courthouse itself has a fascinating history. It was built for the 1948 lost film An Act of Murder, then went on to feature in several TV series, including the first ever episode of The Twilight Zone, 1959's Where Is Everybody? Albeit without its iconic clock or triangular peak.
Wow.
But many will know it as the famous literary courthouse in 1962's film adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird, where its iconic pillars are again featured heavily.
This is heavy.
Thank you, Doc. And then just after its 1984 starring role in Gremlins, it was immortalized as the Clock Tower in Back to the Future. One curious thing is I drove past it in late January 1986 whilst helping Michael and Universal with some stuntman sabotage problems they were having, and the iconic peak seemed to have been removed and was apparently being rebuilt. Analyzing this footage Devin sent us, the angle of that structure off to the side perfectly matches the clock tower's pediment. Why they refurbished or remade it after Back to the Future remains a mystery, but perhaps we can take a look at that too.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
In 1989, those pillars got a slight glassy makeover for the Back to the Future sequels, again starring the legendary Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, set way into the distant future of 2015. But otherwise, it was intentionally left, at least in the story, unchanged and that clock unrepaired. And a clone of the clock tower was rebuilt several hours north of Universal to pose as the Hill Valley original construction, which sadly was dismantled after filming, and the rest of the Western set there destroyed in a brush fire. Perhaps we'll visit it looking for artifacts in the future.
Nice.
But back to the present, those pillars are again seen in Buffy and Bruce Almighty, which brings us back to the Ghost Whisperer, where the courthouse we knew and loved ceased to be. But if you thought that was bad, speaking of fires, in 2008 a huge one sadly destroyed most of Courthouse Square.
Oh no.
Quite. Half the buildings, including Cafe 80s and the Texaco garage, were sadly lost, allegedly caused by a cigarette. Don't smoke, kids. But thanks to the heroic work of the fire department, they again saved the clock tower. All of which brings it to its most famous appearance of all time, here today on Retro Recipes. So let's go and see what lies behind the fire's facades and film history. Are you game or are you yellow?
I think we can manage that. Okay, buddy, take me to the studio. Punch it.
Okay, butthead.
Retro Recipes, a pixelated flight into the nostalgic world of a man whose tech no longer exists. PERIFAX, a grown-up young loner on a crusade to champion the cause of innocent childhood nostalgia, the curious, the powerless, in a world of distracting peripherals that operate above old-school law.
Retro Recipes.
Watch my cat for me, would you?
Good heavens, and I thought Michael was difficult.
This, of course, is the famous street right here, where Marty starts off pressing the gas pedal and accelerating to 88 miles an hour so that he can go back to the future. There was a huge fire here, and it destroyed basically all of this side of the street. However, the clock tower was preserved, and thankfully these old buildings here were as well. They're not really buildings, of course, they are mostly just facades, although some of them have actual real interiors that you can film inside. But you might be thinking, well, in Back to the Future, the gas station wasn't there, that was Cafe 80s. Well, that's right, because they rebuilt it because of the fire, which means we can walk inside Cafe 80s right now. I think the door was about here. Look at that, guys, we are inside Cafe 80s. Get a Pepsi free, please. There's nobody here. What was it in the movie? Pepsi Perfect? Well, let's leave Cafe 80s and go over to the clock tower itself. They have left the doors open, so I think that means come on in. Now, it's obviously had a new clock placed at the top there. Yeah, it definitely looks brand new. There's a door inside the door. Oh my gosh. Guys, look at this. That is the original clock tower columns. The facade is basically just tied to these pillars with ropes. I wasn't expecting a bag, but of course the whole thing is a facade. The clock tower has Wi-Fi. Beautiful.
The future.
That really is movie history, isn't it? Look, it looks like somebody's taken some chunks home with them. I'm not going to do that. This should all stay right here. So in the movie, of course, originally, the pillars are in front of the building, and this is the actual building. So this was all outside open air. And this is where the clock tower starts, right here. Incredibly, this is incredibly well preserved. Of course, it's been hiding behind a facade all this time. It scared me. Oh, that scared me. One of his guns fallen off. I think he'll be all right. The war's over. And look at this. One of the shutters, presumably from that window.
Now, of course, Perry, they get changed for different productions. But while we're out here, what about those Panthers and the original clock? Well, there are actually at least 4 cats. And while it isn't clear which 2 are the originals, the litter has been split up and you can see some at fan events, while others are in private collections. Now, no promises, but word is you might see one of them, along with the original clock itself, if you book a VIP tour at Universal, where they've been preserved in the prop store.
Thank you. So I just asked the production manager just to be sure, but they said it's completely safe. Just watch my step. Don't go in any cordoned off areas. And they said feel free. We can take a peek inside. Hello. Shall we? You're now behind the clock tower. They keep scaring me. Okay, guys, remember they're there. Remind me. And this still looks like a working set. They've got lights rigged up. What I'm interested in is up there, because that's where Christopher Lloyd, the legend, would have actually climbed up to get up to the clock itself. And those two little windows at the top. Okay, wish me luck. It's actually surprisingly solid. Some poop from the Black Panthers, of course. You can tell this is from the 80s. And again, it seems to be a working set.
Are you all right? Your pulse and respiration are racing.
Well, I think just up there is our final area of interest. Things I do for YouTube. There we go. But through that little door, I reckon that's where Christopher Lloyd would have gone. But yeah, amazing. Well, let's head on back down. Got my steps in today. And back here, of course, was where Marty crashed into the cinema, which meant they had to knock it down. No, I don't think that's why.
Crazy drunk driver.
But I think they did it to make way for this soundstage. So Marty crashes in somewhere here. And of course, in that other episode, Kit drives around the corner, around there. So we are walking on hallowed ground now. DeLoreans and Pontiac Trans Ams. Say farewell to our kind guardians here, looking after the clock tower. As I go out the way I came in, exit movie history. Sadly, go back to the future. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and support below. Cheerio.
One man can make a difference, Perry. Or one woman. Or dog. The Fractics, lone curators in a vintage world. The world of retro recipes.
Crazy drunk driver.